Hi, my name is Sean Young. Welcome to Getting Spooky with Sean. Welcome to the Boneyard. That was a sick intro, man.
Love it. That's dope.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I'm really excited about that. I just did that off the fly. Anyways, tonight, as I said, welcome to the Boneyard. This is October 2nd, the very first Monday in all of October. These episodes of Getting Spooky with Sean, the Boneyard, are going to be coming out every Monday from now until Halloween. And I planned it strategically because Halloween is on a Monday. Your final episode comes out on Halloween, on All Hallows Eve. So, with that being said, today we got an awesome guest, good friend of mine. He's actually on Extraordinary with me a year ago when I started this venture, and I've been on his show. We got M-Balm. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? Doing all right, man. You know, things have been pretty crazy, hectic, but you know, it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, man. You've had some major life changes since our last episode.
God, the last time I was on your show, that was a while ago, and a lot's changed, obviously. But yeah, got a newborn son. He's gonna be 3 weeks here on Thursday, so 3 weeks of being a father. It's been crazy, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, just make sure that you don't send your baby out in the wild like they did the Spartans, all right?
No, that's not gonna happen here. You know, worst case scenario, he grows up to be a podcaster like me. You know, so
I mean, if that's the worst case scenario and he models his life after you, I don't think that's such a bad thing.
no, it's not a bad thing at all. You know, obviously he'll have his own hobbies and all that, and I'll support him with whatever he wants to get into, whether it be sports or anything like that. So, you know, we all have our quirks and our hobbies, so it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with.
Right, right. Got to create that individual out of a little child.
That's right.
But we're not here to talk about M-Balm's kid. We're not here to talk about me or any of that. We're here to talk about some more spooky things, some more macabre things on the darker side of the spectrum. But before we get into that, I am going to do a shotgun of questions for M-Balm. He doesn't know any of the questions that I'm going to propose to him. It's going to either be situational based or it's going to be based off of your favorite or your least favorite. Or give me the first word that comes to your mind. So, right off the bat, hot topic here. Ghost Adventures. What do you think of Ghost Adventures?
Listen, I've been watching these guys for many years, you know, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's being said right now, obviously with Zach Bagans and yeah, I mean, I'll watch them. I'm not watching them for Zach. I like them because I think Aaron Goodwin especially. I've liked that guy since the show started, since their documentary. I thought he may have started off as a cameraman, but he's put in a lot of work just by being put in situations that honestly aren't favorable. You know, being in places alone and going to creepy basements and attics and being locked in jail cells and stuff like that. Do I dislike Zach? No, I don't have anything against the guy because I don't know the guy personally. But you know, with things being said with Nick Roth and even Dakota from Project Fear, which is a good show, you know, I was a little disheartened to see them get canceled under the other name, Destination Fear. But I'm actually very happy that they are on YouTube now under Project Fear, and my wife and I watched the new episodes they came out with, and I thought they were pretty good. They get to be themselves. They add some quirkiness to their show, and then of course they get to the paranormal, which everyone loves that. So Ghost Adventures, I have no quarrels with them. I'll still watch them.
I am a huge fan of Aaron. Aaron is my soul animal.
Yep, that dude. I don't know, man. he gets it. I don't know. He just his personality and all that. I just click with that guy. It makes sense when I watch him go into these situations and his reactions. And it's like it's raw. It's real what you see.
Yeah.
I like that.
Have you seen? Next question. Have you seen Mind Seed TV on YouTube?
No.
They are very good. They're some of the best compelling evidence I have ever seen.
Ooh.
Point blank. Period. Them among other people. There's another group that is called. I can't remember what the name of theirs is called. I'll have to look them up and get back to you afterwards.
Okay.
But next question: favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh boy. Favorite horror movie of all time? Um, Definitely not Black Christmas. Black Christmas was junk. The remake was an abomination.
Yeah.
God, I honestly don't even know. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. Um, I don't know. It's a good one, man. That's a good question.
It's a stumper.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, I have these days low expectations from horror movies because they obviously it's hit or miss with that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of anything recently that has caught my eye. I can't think of anything, man.
Terrifier 2 was good.
Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 1 and 2.
Let me ask you this, just off the cuff.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me on one side or both sides?
Both sides.
Okay, good. That's a good sign. All right, just wanted to make sure.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, man. Classic movies. I'll be honest with you. I love the classics, the old cheesy, horror movies that we all know and love.
Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Yep, we got that. Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm a sucker for there's Chucky, obviously. There's Child's Play with that. I like all the old stuff, just
Yeah.
because I remember watching that as a kid back in the '90s, especially on Halloween. That's all the old stuff that used to be on. That would be on TV for Halloween.
All right, next question. Hypothetical. Michael Myers versus Jason. Who wins?
You know, I gotta say Michael Myers, man. I don't get me wrong. I love Jason Voorhees, but Michael Myers is more of an icon, I think, when it comes to Halloween and spooky season.
Yeah.
And I just wholeheartedly believe that he's the more prominent icon compared to Jason. You see him more in line with that.
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees is great, but Michael Myers is probably the guy I'm gonna go with on that one.
If I would have to put a face to Halloween, it would be Michael Myers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
hands down.
Yeah. All right. Next question. What was your very first Halloween costume that you can remember?
That I can remember. I don't know my very first. That's a good question, man. Very first. Well, I can't say it's the first, but it's one I remember the most as a kid, and that would be Raiden from Mortal Kombat. Yeah, got to be Raiden. It was gonna be Sub-Zero, but I remember the Halloween costume being too small at the time. I think I outgrew it already, and then we found a Raiden one, and I thought that was pretty badass. And then we went to this haunted house, and I think it was a real haunted house. I don't know, but this is back in the '90s, so I'm just going based off of what I remember. So, but I was dressed up as Raiden. So, any ghosts pop out or any monsters, I just electrify them with my thunderbolt, my thunder powers.
Sick, sick, dude. Yeah, keeping it kayfabe. That house was haunted.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's sick. That's better than mine. I dressed up as Superman with the little plastic mask.
Oh yeah, the mask. Now this didn't come with the mask. It had the hat. Like for Mortal Kombat 2,
Yeah.
when Raiden was dressed in the white and blue attire and the hat.
Yeah.
That's basically what it looked like. But Superman. I think I dressed up as Superman at one point too with the mask.
Yeah.
Because elementary school used to have Halloween costume day or whatever.
Yeah.
They allowed this back then. I don't know if they do anymore, but you were able to dress up in costumes and you know, but Superman's not bad, not bad choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What is your favorite costume you've ever worn?
Ooh. Oh God. Favorites? Oh man. I don't know. I mean, Raiden's up there. Raiden's up there. But it would probably be Big Evil Undertaker back in the
Ooh,
day. You know, I
ooh,
had the shirt. I still have that shirt somewhere. It's the old 2002 Red Devil
yeah.
on the front, Big Red Evil on the back, the bandana, and then of course at the time, I think it was in sixth grade, I had to paint on a goatee because I couldn't grow facial hair at the time, so I had to do that. But that would probably be up there in the top favorites.
Dude, that's a good one too.
Yeah,
That's a really good one. I think my all-time favorite is Ghostface.
Ghostface.
Dude, if I cannot choose a costume, I'm doing Ghostface.
No, that one had the blood running down the face.
No, no, just
No,
typical Ghostface from Scream.
dude, I have a bowling ball with Ghostface. It's amazing.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I've had that thing
Scream,
for years.
Scream is like my all-time horror movie series. It's my
Oh,
favorite.
dude, I love it.
Yeah, yeah, I love it too because well, there's a lot of subliminal messages underneath it that people don't realize, but it's
So
not
with Scream,
here. Yeah,
it was always like comedic horror. It kind of
scary
made,
movie.
yeah, it was almost like that. I mean, it made fun of itself within the movie,
Yeah,
and we didn't watch it yet, but the latest one I guess is different. It's more dark. So I'm
yeah.
not sure. We haven't watched it yet, but
I
that's what I
won't
heard.
spoil it. I won't spoil it for you. I seen it in theaters the day it came out.
Did you?
It's very good.
Oh,
It's
that's what I heard.
and I think going off topic here for a second. I think that the new Scream remake got a lot of hate for some of the messages that it was trying to send, or that people perceive that it was trying to send.
Oh
But it
boy.
is the perfect way to remake the series, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And I'm pretty sure that the way we feel right now,
yeah.
like about watching Scream or reboots, is what our parents were saying back when Scream was coming out in '97. We're like, oh, this is just terrible.
You're spot on with that actually, because I know a lot of people in the older generation didn't like the newer, at the time newer,
Yeah,
horror movies. They were pretty consistent with the older stuff.
yeah.
They liked that better. But
All right. Final question. What is your favorite thing about the Halloween season?
oh god, dude, there's so many. You know, I have a motto. It's not Halloween is not just a holiday to me. It's a lifestyle. You know, I'm a Misfits fan, so just by default, if you're a Misfits fan, Halloween's all year round for you. But I love the darkness of it, the spooky season, so to speak. But I just love the ambiance. When autumn sets in and you just feel the change in the air, the season, the atmosphere. It's just everybody at the time thinks about what we're about to talk about. The spooky stuff season and the hauntings and the paranormal. So you see people prance around in ghost costumes and zombie costumes and all that, but there's the mystique of it. Like I've been interested in that stuff for so long. So out of all the seasons and all the holidays, this is my favorite holiday of all time. So I love Halloween.
I can agree. I love everything about it. I mean, the food is good too because people kind of change the way that they cook, right?
Yep.
But I like I when I lived in Alaska, and I haven't seen it yet, but when I lived in Alaska, and I would drive out and go to like some of the shopping malls and stuff, you see Spirit Halloween there, and it just got me excited, right? Like I was like, oh shit, it's that time of year again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like seeing things changing, seeing the leaves change, and seeing every you said you feel it in the air, it
Yep.
changes, everything about it changes. I find it so much more enjoyable, right? And then you start getting the countdowns to Halloween on Facebook, and then and certain time, like this is one of the times of the year where like there's a heightened amount of horror movies coming out. We've got The Exorcist coming out. We got The Nun 2 coming out next
Mm,
week. Dude, we've got so many horror movies coming out very soon. And it's just like, you know that it's coming and it's going to be awesome.
yeah.
It's going
Uh,
to be fucking awesome.
to go back to your one question about horror movies, the one that just stuck to my mind as a favorite, I wouldn't say my top favorite of all time, but I would say a favorite is Sinister. The first one. I actually just was watching that a month ago as I was doing work in this office. I had it on the TV, and they had that found footage. He goes in the attic
Yeah.
and sees all these murders and all that. And I just thought to myself, I had a moment in time where that almost happened to me. Uh, who's on our show? His name is Omen. His real name is Justin, but we his old house that he lived in had a camera, video camera. It was in this basement that was almost like a dungeon, and I was supposed to take that home after I was helping them move,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason I didn't, and nobody knows where that video camera went. But my guess, probably would have seen some really fucked up shit on that camera. I guarantee it. I wish I would have kept it. I wish I would have went through it, but it disappeared. Nobody knows where
Wow.
it went. So that movie always brings me back to those moments. So
That is insane.
yeah,
That, wow.
yeah,
That is crazy. You could, like, and in those instances, like, your brain starts to wonder, like, what would I have seen on that camera? Right.
right. Oh yeah, literally, the basement looked like an old school dungeon. The basement would come into like it was very low and all that stuff, but like in the back there was like a dungeon esque room with this little weird wooden I don't even know if you'd call it a seat or a cot, but it was like against the wall. I think it was bolted to the wall or something, but it was just really weird. And we actually used it in one of our scenes for an old web series we did because it looked pretty badass. But we always asked ourselves, what really went down in this place? You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's bolted to the wall, that's a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It was a weird setup, and I was like, this doesn't seem right, but okay, hey, we'll roll with it.
Oh, oh, that's dude. That gives me chills.
Dude, that house, we have a whole bunch of stories. We even talked about it, and you know, we were on the couch in the dark, Omen and I, and then Ghost was in the one chair, and we sprung up because it felt like somebody had come up to the couch and kicked it full force, and you can like just feel it, and we're
Yeah.
like, dude, what just happened? And we're like, what would cause that? It literally felt like someone kicked it. But the house was definitely haunted.
Oh
Uh,
man.
yeah.
Jeez. I think like I had a moment where like I was waiting for some weird shit to happen and it never did. Um, you've seen I posted up these pictures of a cave that I went into.
Yeah.
Big Crystal Grottoes cave here in Maryland. And there's a portion of the tour where the tour guide says, "Okay, now turn your phones off, put them in your pocket, and this is what it looks like in complete darkness." And he shuts the light off, and you cannot see your hand in front of your face. And like I'm sitting there, and I grab my girlfriend's shoulder, and I grabbed one of the kids' shoulders. I was like, "Do not walk any fucking where." Right? I've seen them as above, so below. This is how shit starts.
That's how it starts, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the guy took a lighter, lit the lighter, and was like shining it around. And I was like, I'm just waiting on someone to pop out, man. Like this is fucking creepy.
Yeah. I mean, we have a cave here. It's called Howe Cavern. It's actually about 3.5, 4 hours away. So close to Albany. And the last time I was there was maybe 10 years ago. But I could see that, like, they have all the lights and all that. But if you turn those lights off, it's obviously going to be pitch black. There's nothing in front of you that has any type of light. So I could imagine what that's like.
Yeah, and the tour guide said that, and here this just even adds to the madness. He said that if you stayed underground for 3 weeks without absolute light, your eyes would not adjust to the darkness. If you somehow found your way out, you'd be permanently blind because your eyes would be burnt by
Oh,
the light
for
because
how
they had
long?
a 3 weeks.
Ooh, no, I wouldn't want to be down there for 3 weeks.
Fuck no. Mm-mm. No, thank you. I don't want that. But anyways, all right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on, and we're gonna start talking about some of the more weird, macabre things that you've encountered. So, if you can remember back, when was your very first experience with said paranormal?
Um, so by nature, I'm a very huge skeptic on everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Paranormal could have been in that boat, and it would have been had I had not experienced what I experienced in the mid '90s. Yeah, I must have been, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6, something along those lines. It was in the mid '90s. My first experience was in an old house we lived in Ontario, New York, and I remember specifically washing my hands in the bathroom. Light was on. It was broad daylight, so it wasn't like nighttime or anything like that. And I looked in the mirror, and I saw this headless dude walking back and forth with a tattered blue windbreaker type jacket. And I remember as a kid, like looking to my left even more because it was like in the left hand corner in the mirror. I looked to my left in real time in person, wasn't there, only in the mirror, and it was like whatever it was walking back and forth. I booked it, and I got my mom and I said, "There's something in the bathroom. Someone's in there." Well, we get back and it's obviously gone. So of course, as every adult does when you're a child, oh, it's all in your imagination. It's all in your head. But no, I saw this, and it was as real as you are in front of me now in the screen or any inanimate object like my keyboard here.
Yeah.
It was as real as day. It was in front of me. So that was my first paranormal incident, and you know I go back and look at it like if I never experienced anything like that in my life, I would be a skeptic for sure. I would say you're full of shit on
Yeah.
paranormal and that it doesn't exist, but I can't because I experienced it firsthand. So, yeah, that was my first experience.
That is wild. I don't know how I'd be able to handle seeing something like that.
Yeah, you know, just from the neck up, it was like it wasn't even like completely cut off. There was something there. I don't even know what it was. It might have been bone fragments. I don't know. I just all I remember seeing is like from the neck up, just it was distorted and there was no head. And I remember it. I remember it like clear as day.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It's just it's something that sticks with you,
Yeah.
especially as a kid. You're not really expecting to see that in the mirror.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't like that house was old or anything. It was built in the '80s, so it was fairly new. But they always say, if there's something that happened on the land, it doesn't matter if there's something new there or not. You're gonna probably see something.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. How did that shape like the way that you look at life now as an adult?
I want to capture something like that on film.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And it just I've experienced things in childhood and adulthood, which I'm sure we'll get to later on. But as it shapes my life, I always think about what is out there. What is that we're experiencing? Because there's all kinds of theories on what the paranormal is, and we're gonna dive right into that, I'm sure, into this show.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that one. But it definitely made me a believer right
Yeah.
off the bat because
Yeah.
I can't deny it. I can't deny that the paranormal exists. I just
Yeah.
can't. I saw it.
Th- This is what blows my mind about like society. Like since people started believing in the paranormal, which I mean has happened a long time,
Hmm.
but when technology is advanced and it starts to advance more, and now you got you go from the 8 millimeter camera all the way up to what we have now. People are coming out with pictures, video, audio, and then you have people that are like, I want proof, and you show them proof, and they're like, well, that's not real. What?
Um, Dude, it happens a lot. You
Yeah.
know. So when I lived in my parents' house, we'd go out to eat like on Friday at night, and we'd be out for like 2 hours, 3 hours at a time, maybe. And I would leave my HD night vision video camera running in the kitchen, just getting a full view of the one side of the house of the lower level. And you would always pick up on certain noises, like someone hitting the countertop or the drawer. You'd hear it, but you wouldn't see it. The one that sticks out to me, and I still have it on one of my hard drives. I don't know which one it is, but it might be the one out in the living room. But I have a video clip of you can hear it. Nobody's in the house. Nobody's in the house at all. Dogs are in the kennel or the crate or whatever you want to call it. You can hear a chair pull out, and you can hear it rub against the floor. Well, we showed this to somebody we know, and you want to guess what their interpretation of that video was?
What was it?
They said that it was a little miniature earthquake. They said, "Oh, New York gets earthquakes, and that's what you captured on video is the audio of maybe something moving because of an earthquake." I said, "You're full of shit."
Yeah.
I go, "There's no fucking way anybody could have said that it was an earthquake because if that was the case, if things are moving that much, everybody would have felt it. Nobody felt that."
No.
And needless to say, you don't see anything move on the video. You just hear it. So, yeah, it never happened again. So, these people that are skeptical, look, I get it. I'm a skeptic on things too, but it's just another term of I can't explain it. There's no explanation for me, so I'm just going to guess what happened, which that was a very bad analogy of what happened. Very terrible. It was embarrassing to even be in front of that person's presence by saying there was an earthquake.
Yeah, right. So I know a lot of, when kids, not a lot, but there's a good portion of children that when they experience paranormal at a young age, or even at age where they can decipher, real from, reality from the paranormal,
Yeah.
they step into the realm of like trying to investigate as teenagers. Is that something that you went into?
Yeah. Oh, dude, absolutely. I never got to a point where I made anything out of it, like as a project, and I thought about it over the years, and I've been thinking about it more now than ever. But I have been investigating places in the area for a little over a decade. I have the tools, not like night vision, or I have night vision cameras and all that, HD cameras and all that, and I have, K2 meter, a silent REM pod, just certain tools of the trade, EV, obviously the audio recorders and all that. But I don't have anything that's like thermal. I don't have thermal imaging or anything that stuff. And I'd like to maybe get it down the road or whatever. But we looked into that stuff as teenagers, and that's kind of where that whole thing happened at Omen's old house. Is we were messing around with tools and stuff. We had stuff recording, and we didn't get that on recording. I wish we got that on recording. Of course, when the cameras aren't rolling, sometimes you get the best stuff. Well, that's what happened. There's a full force kick that happened on the couch, and we jumped up, and I was like, "Damn, I wish we had that recorded." But yeah, dude. I mean, ever since, like I said, from that moment on, I've been interested. I've been wanting to capture something like that on film, and just as even in high school, I remember wanting to start a paranormal team. It never happened, but I've been interested in the paranormal since I can remember, man. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. So you transitioned from being a teenager to an adult. You moved to the Rock. He's from the Rock, y'all.
The R.O.C.
The
baby.
R.O.C. baby. Um, had to do it. When do you start experiencing paranormal activities around you at a more frequent rate?
So 99, my grandmother passes away, and so we literally lived like 20 minutes away from here in this town, and so my parents just pretty much up and moved in there to take care of my grandfather when he was here, and they sold their house in 2000 and in Ontario, New York, and so we lived here since then, and that house, even to this day, not as maybe frequent now, but they've been getting some activity, and they have all the cameras now in the house, just in places, but it's always prevalent in like the floor that I would get stuff on, and they've been getting. And now, I'm not. Here's one thing I am a skeptic of, and that is orbs. Always have been a skeptic of orbs because that can be a bug, it can be a dust particle, but there's those orbs that you'll see that you can't explain, which is like the most transparent perfect cylinder things that like have a majestic movement to them like that.
Yeah.
And they've been getting that lately. And it actually, ironically, broke their TV that was in the living room. It just fried for whatever reason, so they had to go out and buy a new TV. But
Wow.
that house there, I've experienced a few things, and my sister has too. Funny story. We were actually all away, I think, to the Thousand Islands in New York, which is about 3 hours away from here. And she was home alone. She had to go to work the next day, so she didn't come with at that time. And she heard somebody coming up the stairs, but nobody was there. Like, how do you explain that? You hear it, but
Yeah.
you don't see nothing. You don't see anybody.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that same exact thing years down the road, waiting for somebody to be there, but nobody was there. You know, there was a time where there was a door handle. We were all in the kitchen as a family, and the door handle of the pantry, just because it's not your normal turn door handle. It's
Hmm.
one of those elongated ones you have to pull down.
Yeah.
This thing just started going like this. It started going down, and then it flung right up. Like, okay, and I wasn't the only one that saw this. And so we check it. There's nothing that could have caused that. How do you explain that? You know what I mean? So there's been quite an interesting amount of activity at that place. So
Oof.
yeah,
Jeez.
nothing evil, but just
Well,
noticeable.
that's good. You also, you also used to work at an armory, right?
Oh, so no, it's oh boy, this is another story that just may make you wonder. I did security years ago. It was known as Harris RF Communications. Since then, they've been merged and bought out, and now they're L3 Harris. But back then, it was RF Communications Harris. So the one building was known for a murder that happened, but it didn't happen there at the building. There, back in the '90s, there was a girl named Kaylee Polton here in Rochester, New York. She had went missing, and down the road, I think like 9 months later, the guy had confessed that he had killed this little girl, and they found her in the water tank in the boiler room in the building he worked in as security. Ironically enough, back then they didn't have cameras or anything like that, so he hid her body there. Well, they find her, all that stuff, her remains, and he goes away. And I guess he had murdered an old lady in a park back in the '80s, so he got away with that for a
Yeah.
little bit of time. But then this, incident happened. So I worked that same building. It was one of the buildings I worked at for Harris, and for whatever reason, they decided to cut the power at a certain time, so there would only be like ambient lighting. They didn't want to pay for electric, I guess, maybe, I don't know. But it was really dark in certain areas. So the cafeteria was like dark with some ambient lighting. And so on one of my tours, I was going through a double door to go inside the kitchen. I unlocked it, and I had just gone inside and closed the doors. And I'm on the phone with my supervisor because we were talking about something that happened or that we were, I don't know, something to do with the job. And I go to reach for my flashlight on my duty belt, and I turn around and I see like a shadow. Like there's ambient lighting that's supposed to come through the crack of the door in the middle, but there was a black mass just in place. And as my eyes are trying to adjust to this whatever it is, it like moves. It starts galloping like a toddler. Like you know how a toddler
Yeah.
runs? Well, that's how this thing was moving. And I knew what it was at the point in time that it was a shadow figure because as soon as I saw it go through the one circular window, I was like, okay, now I know it's real. So whatever it was, my logic was, okay, what is it? Who is it? I run towards where it ran because it was pretty quick. It turned the corner where there was a long hallway, and as soon as I got to the hallway, nobody was there. Nothing. And I'm like, there's no logical way that anybody could have ran that fast down that hallway to the point where I couldn't see them. And so that was interesting. And you would hear like noises in the night, and nobody's there. Like the employees are gone. Now you'd have the occasional one that would stay overnight and whatnot, but they were quiet. But you'd hear doors closing on their own, and then the security officer that would sit at the lobby would hear a lot of it. And this older gentleman didn't like any of that stuff. Didn't like it. So his name was George, and I went up to him that night because he was there that night. I go, George, did anybody come in or leave the building as I was doing my tour?
Mhm.
And he said no. I go, well, you're not gonna like what I have to say then. So I told him what happened, and he was like, "Oh hell no," you know. And this older black gentleman just didn't like the paranormal, didn't like it. He would always tell me, he'd go, I heard a whole bunch of stuff tonight, and I just don't get it. I go, what'd you hear? And he'd be like, I heard like doors closing and stuff. And I go, man, this building has something to it. I'm telling you, like, so that building, it's it's heavy because you know what happened. The guy lured this girl over at his apartment complex, and he freaked out when he heard the mother calling out for her for supper, and he choked her and killed her. And so that night or whatever, he took her body to that building, climbed her up, and threw her in the water tank. So you know what happened there.
Yeah.
You experience these things that happen in the building, and you just think to yourself, man, that residual energy is still there of
Yeah.
what happened. Now, would I say her spirit's there? I don't know. But whatever's there, it's not evil, but it's something there, obviously.
Yeah. What a wild, wild story.
Dude, it's sad. You know,
Yeah.
it's it hits home because as a parent now, you just don't want to let your kid out of sight, man.
No,
No.
no, definitely not. You some of the more scary things in life are real, right?
Yeah.
Like they're physical. You can touch them, you can see them, you watch it on the news, right? And I think that outside of the paranormal, that's the scariest thing that you can deal with
Yeah.
is those situations that your children may or may not be placed in, and that fear and the thought of the what if always is in the back of your mind, and it brings you paranoia sometimes.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. My girlfriend talked about, well, what if, my daughter gets abducted at school? I said, well, let's not think about that. But if that was a case and situation, that's absolutely horrifying to even think about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Just and I'm always one of those guys that think, oh, what's the worst case scenario that could happen in these situations? Any situation. Sometimes I get anxiety just by going somewhere, like even to like rock shows and stuff. I enjoy myself, but there's an initial anxiety that goes with it, like what could happen.
Yeah.
So the fear's there.
Yeah.
The
We've
anxiety's
seen,
there.
yeah, we've seen some atrocious things happen at rock shows too. I mean, you look at White Shark, I think it was,
Mm.
where the club burned down
Yeah,
while they were playing on stage, and then you got the situation with Dimebag Daryl where he got shot on
got shot.
stage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was in
just
2004.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it's anything can happen. You know.
yeah, insane stuff. So moving on, what is the most terrifying situation that you've ever been placed in, either physically or in the paranormal?
So my grandfather was big into fishing, and this is probably the most out there one because we shouldn't have gone out fishing this day. Well, we did. It was my grandfather, myself, and the neighbor across the street. Um, we all went out, and it was okay. It wasn't like raining or anything at this point. It was overcast. So we get out to the spot, and this is up in the Thousand Islands region because we traveled there frequently. It was like almost every weekend. Um, and so the clouds really started to come in even more. Like, all right, let's start booking it. Let's start getting out of here. Well, it turned into a thunderstorm, and the waves were to the point where they were coming over the boat, and anything could have happened. You know, I had my mom's flip phone at the time. It was like one of the first colored screen uh, flip phones. Well, that got fried because the waves just killed it. So, here's my parents and all that. They're having a nice breakfast at a restaurant. Just nice and warm and dry and cozy and just eating their breakfast. And Meanwhile, we're out here getting drenched with waves coming over us, and the boat could have been capsized and all that. Who knows what could have happened, And that was a pretty terrifying moment in my life. I might have been, I think it was like 13 or something years old, and so the thoughts that go through your head are like, dude, this could be it. Realistically, this is a very bad situation.
Yeah.
But luckily, my grandfather knew what he was doing. He got us through it, and we got back to land and all that. But I'll tell you what, man, tasting that water that's coming over there, and I don't know if anyone else has ever tasted nasty St. Lawrence River water, but it tasted like hairspray to me. Like the smell of hairspray, well, it tasted like that. It was something I wouldn't recommend. You wouldn't want to order that at a restaurant. Oh, give me some of that St. Lawrence River water. No, you don't want that. But
With a spritz of lime.
well, yeah, a spritz of a little lime, maybe some lemon. But I think back at that moment. I go, that's probably the closest to death that I probably have been in the last 32 years. Granted, there's other moments in time that could have been bad,
Yeah.
but that one definitely comes to mind. Just dude, you hear all those horror stories about like ships sinking, and I'm talking about big freight liners and all that, just huge ships just sinking, and just, here we are in this little boat, and just waves coming over us, and I'm like, dude, that could have been bad. That could have been a story on a boat castle tour boat.
Yeah.
Like they tell you all the stories that happen within areas, and they take you to these areas and islands and stuff. They tell you the stories. Well, we could have been a story there. That's
Yeah.
that's a scary thought. Just not good, man.
That is one of my biggest fears is open water.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's
Absolutely.
fears, man. It's
Yeah.
it's. I don't have a big fear of it, but it's not something I would mark as my favorite thing.
No, no, and that's absolutely terrifying. As you were explaining that, all I could think was the perfect storm, dude. I was just like,
Right.
fuck, that is terrifying.
Yeah. I think that movie came out like a year or so before that happened, or something like
Oh
that.
no.
Yeah. So that's another thing that came to mind. You start thinking about those scenes where the wave is just coming down on that boat, and you're like, well, that could be us right
Yeah, we're
now.
fucked. Well, we're fucked.
Yeah, there's nothing we
Jesus.
can do.
Oh my god. No, thank you. No, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna we're gonna move along, and we're gonna talk about some myths, and I'll see what your opinion is of some of these myths. Vampires. Do you think that they're real? And if they are real, where do you find them?
Uh, I don't know if they're real. I don't. I think there's people that think they're vampires, and they have a weird obsession with Twilight for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But that was a thing. What, 10 years ago now, and everyone was like, "Oh, I'm a vampire," and it's like, "No, you're not." I'm sorry. I just vampires, in my opinion, probably don't exist. Maybe in one's head, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
Do
If
you
you were to
know
find them, Transylvania probably.
do you know how the where the actual thought of vampirism came about?
No.
I found this out.
Ooh.
So back in back in the early days, in the early 1700s, I believe, maybe 1800s, there was the tuberculosis scare that was happening, right?
Mm.
And when you get when you would contract TB, you would get it would kill you relatively fast at a faster rate back then than it would now.
Mm.
And so what would happen is the blood would coagulate within you, and it would start to come out of your mouth
Oh.
after you had passed, right? And so fresh bodies would not show this sign of blood coming out of the mouth or the eyes or any orifice, but a body that had passed anywhere from a year and past that would. And so there was a string of family members that would catch tuberculosis, and they would die, and they would go and examine the bodies, exhume them, and then examine the bodies. And the oldest of everybody that had died would get this have the blood on the mouth, so they would presume that that person was a vampire.
Oh.
Now,
Okay.
back in the day, they didn't call it tuberculosis; they called it consumption, because it was eating the disease was eating your insides. And there was this man that was from England, and he was doing a traveling show. He was a traveling actor, huge failure, but he started hearing about this tuberculosis thing, this consumption disease, and he started writing a book about it. And it just so happened that book was Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah,
I did not know that tuberculosis is the genesis of vampirism.
it is.
That's kind of crazy, man. I
Yeah.
mean, I know there's like a lot of stories about tuberculosis, but that was the last thing that would come to mind is those two together.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Lore by Aaron Mankey. We were talking about that before, and he
Yep.
had an episode about it. And I was like, "Oh, this is gonna talk about vampires, Twilight, like exactly just like you did." And then he linked tuberculosis to Bram Stoker's Dracula. I was like, "Dude, that is wild,
That is wild, dude.
absolutely insane."
That's yeah. I don't know what season that was on for that show, but I probably did skip that one just because of the Twilight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had enough of all that craziness with Edward and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
There's a reason why I've skipped over watching vampire movies. Like I hadn't seen Bram Stoker's up until a few years ago.
mm,
I hadn't seen Interview with a Vampire. I mean, obviously, I watched Underworld, but that's a
yeah,
whole different thing,
it
right? That's
is.
action,
Yeah,
right? It's not romanticized.
Blade.
Blade,
Those
yeah,
were
another
cool.
one.
I loved
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Also, Blade is the genesis of the MCU.
Very true.
So, but anyways, I hadn't watched vampire movies because of Twilight, and just saying I don't want to subject myself to that. But there's a lot of good. there's a lot of good vampire movies out there.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Just keep in mind, not everything is Twilight. So no
Yeah,
sparkly vampires that love story things. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay, so going into the next one, Mothman.
ooh,
What do you think
Ma-
about Mothman?
Mothra. Yeah. What
Mothra.
I mean, there's supposed pictures
Mhm.
out there, but I don't know, man. With all the technology we have these days, and if it does exist, don't you think we would catch it? I mean, we caught Osama bin Laden and we took him out, right? After
Right?
all these years.
Yeah,
Well, we still haven't caught Mothman.
yeah.
You know?
Well, there. So I don't know if you watch Nuke's Top Five.
Mm.
I do. Okay, so it's a YouTube channel, Nuke's Top Five. It's like a collection of some of the scariest paranormal stuff for
It's
the.
not. It's not chills, right? It's not
No, oh, I
number
don't like. I'm not a fan of
number
chills.
15 foot lettuce.
I was just about to say foot lettuce.
Yeah.
No, no. So this guy is actually really cool. He adds entertainment value and some comedic relief to it, but it's a compilation. And there is a guy that does not go out, or he's an urban explorer. He doesn't go out to look for paranormal stuff. He goes out to look for, some decaying buildings and show the beauty inside of them.
I love it.
But he catches paranormal shit all the time, naturally so. And he went into the caves and or the sewer tunnels in Point Pleasant, where supposedly Mothman resides.
Mm.
And he just went into caves to show like the cave systems. He turns a corner, and there was a set of eyes or a set of glowing things that peered around the corner, and there was a face. And then there was a second set of eyes that popped around the side just below it, and it was like.
What?
And I was like, fuck, man. What?
Dude.
Insane.
So, like, these guys that do urban exploring, most of them are skeptics. They don't even think about
Yeah.
this stuff. But this guy's catching this stuff as he's exploring these abandoned places. And
Yeah.
that's pretty insane, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's absolutely wild. And some of the other proof that he's gotten has just been like absolutely wild. And he even says he's like, I don't look to capture it. I just want to show the beauty in these structures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's wild. All right. The final question before we wrap it up. What do you think about extraterrestrials?
No, that without a doubt has to be 110%. I mean, I'm pretty sure it just was proven
Yeah.
recently, but even before that, I always thought to myself, there's no way that we're the only ones on a spinning rock in this vast universe. There's got to be something out there, even if it's just bacteria. But I think there's more to that than just that.
Yeah.
Are they gray, big-headed, big-eyed figures that fly in saucers? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But there's definitely something or someone out there. I would say that I would even venture to say that we've already run into them in physical form. I
Yeah.
would say that we've probably already witnessed one, and we just never realized it because they blended in so well with society.
Yeah.
I mean, Men in Black. They dressed up as humans, and I'm pretty sure that that's probably. It's just like when you go out hunting, right?
Hmm.
You go out hunting. I mean, to a point, the right thing to do is wear orange, I guess, so that way you can be
Yeah.
seen. But camouflage, you want to make sure you're not seen by the animal when you're there. Um, I would say that that's what probably the extraterrestrials are doing to us right now. Is just
Yeah.
camouflaging.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I always say that there's no way, shape, or form we're the smartest beings in the whole galaxy
No,
because we're pretty fucking stupid.
dude, the last 3, 4, 5 years have just it's been a shit show.
From Tide Pods to bleach
Dude.
to motherfucking TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, dude, TikTok. I know it's we were just talking about urban exploration and all that, but I don't know if you watched the episode that we did with uh Sweet Baby Ray Jr.
Hmm.
But the urban explorer had found some really screwed up stuff in China. He was a Chinese TikToker who went to this laboratory
Yeah.
and found dead toddler corpses in a pool. And mind you, this is supposed to be abandoned. And he went back like 3 different times, and things did change every time he went there. Like, so somebody was obviously occupying it at certain points, just doing whatever the hell they were doing with these kids, and it's gross, and it tells me that there's some really messed up shit happening over there.
Yeah. Definitely. Have you heard of Randonautica?
Dude, yes, and I want to talk to you about that because
Okay.
I tried it
Hmm.
when it was like first. Oh, this is huge. We tried it, I think, and we didn't get anything out of it. But I did find it weird that it took us to a park after we thought green, the color green, and everything was green. Like tables were green, trash cans
Yeah.
were green. I don't know, man. But what do you think of it?
Man, I contemplated doing it right when I was in Alaska because it was in the fad of all the time,
Mm.
of that time. But like, I got to a point where I was seeing so many terrifying things come out of that app from other people that I was like, I don't want to put myself right. And I just so happened I was like, okay, let's fucking do it. And I put death right, and
Oh,
I was like, I channeled death. And I looked up the coordinates and it took me right to the goddamn cemetery. I
mm.
was like, no, I'm not doing this shit. Nope. Nope. Don't need it.
um, it does like to take you in a lot of people's backyards. I don't like
Yeah.
that. I'm not gonna
No.
be snooping around someone's yard. So I just cancel that out. Everyone always, that's the one thing that fascinates me about this app. You have an app that if you put your thoughts into it, you're supposed to find this. And everyone seems to be drawn to the dark side,
Yeah.
death, murder, anything. How
Yeah.
come people are out there like, okay, $1 million cash bag or, cute little bunny that I could take home and make it my friend? No,
Yeah.
nobody does that. They go, I want to see death. I want to see just gruesome gore. Everyone's thinking about the worst possible cases imaginable, and they want to get taken to that. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because naturally, as human beings, we're drawn to the dark side. We're drawn to things that are macabre. We're drawn, even if we're like of human being alive. No, you're also fucking drawn to something that has a darkness to it, right? We
Yeah.
all love death and destruction. If we didn't like death or destruction, we wouldn't watch wrestling, we wouldn't watch UFC, we wouldn't own guns, and if we did own guns, then we wouldn't own knives, right? We fucking love destruction. We love uh, pain, suffering. That's why we love watching horror movies as well. We love the pain and suffering. right? We love to be terrified, and I
Yep.
think naturally that thought process, when we get into an app that's randomly generated coordinates, say take me to somewhere that will terrify the dog shit on me, you're gonna get what you asked for.
Yeah.
It's
It's
manifestation, 100%.
yeah. It's kind of why I was when we did the two two or three different trips that we went in that same night. I was like, let's not do anything dark. I said, let's see what it does when we think of colors or just simple things, just to see just to kind of gauge it. Now the first two or whatever didn't really take us anywhere crazy similar to what we were thinking, but the third one I was like, okay, well, it's kind of ironic. Everything's green.
Yeah.
But I haven't been on it in a while. I'm sure the app's changed, but I wouldn't be opposed to checking it out again.
Yeah. I mean, I live in an area right now where I feel like if I did anything and I tried anything dark, it would take me some really fucked up places. And I'm not really ready to go to those dark, fucked up places, okay?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's yeah. Do you really want to tempt fate?
Fuck no.
I mean,
No.
as human beings, we all have our different paths of life. We walk different paths. We have different hobbies, different likes, right? We have different aspirations.
Yeah.
But the one thing we do have in common, I don't care who you are in this world, everybody on this planet has one thing in common. You know what that is?
What's that?
We all experience death,
That
one
is
way or
true.
another,
Yeah.
whether it be somebody we love or our own demise. We all, in one way, shape, or form, experience it. And that's the one thing we have to ask is what happens?
Yeah.
What happens after this?
Yeah.
We talk about paranormal, and we talk about it being somebody who once was living, or an elemental, or a demon. But here's the thing I've been recently thinking about. What if all those three were completely wrong? What if those three things were wrong? Because I think scientists have come to the conclusion that there are parallel universes out there. And I think they've confirmed that there is the possibility of that being the case. What if, when we're in these places, we aren't talking to the dead? What if we're talking to somebody who's in a different time era? Or what if we're talking to somebody or interacting with somebody from a different parallel universe? I think that's an interesting theory.
Yeah. And we're gonna leave it up for thought and leave it up for discussion for everybody to think about and everybody to contemplate.
Yes.
M-Balm, where can we find you at, man?
You can find us at the M-Balm Effect.com. You can check us out on YouTube, the M-Balm Effect. And if you don't know how to spell that, well, it's right here on the hat. The M-BALM Effect. And you can check us out on Spotify, iHeartRadio. Our podcast is a little wacky. It's very, it's unorthodox. It's not your typical podcast. We do all kinds of stuff. We say all kinds of dark humor because that's how we cope. But these topics come up very frequent on our show. Not every time, but we talk about this stuff because, again, we're all going to experience death one way or another. I just opened up a line of clothes that I started to design. Dark Arts, DXRK, ARTS. Being a little bit of a talk slut on Sean's show here.
Go for it. Shameless plugs, man.
Shameless plug here. Just open it up, just getting the feel to see where it goes. I've always been a fan of alternative clothes, and I just kind of was like, it's time to just get a little bit more creative and check this out because I'm into the dark stuff. But you can check us out. But of course, M-Balm, just search that up, M-BALM. I'm sure you'll find me somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And M-Balm, I want to thank you for spending this hour with me and hanging out with me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for bringing your cape. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the cloak. You gotta have that. The
Yes.
all-seeing eye on the back.
Yep.
Yep. So I'm all about
Yep.
the symbolism and all that. I don't technically believe in any specific religion or anything like that. I like the style. I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. All righty. And next week, we have a pretty exciting guest, but I'm not going to reveal who that guest is because you're going to have to come back next week and see. And just make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and share this because this is entertaining. It's always fun when we communicate with other people about some of the weirdest shit in life. And have a good day. Good night.